Testifying before the commission probing the April 21st attack, former president says that instructions were given to arrest Zaharan and neither the IGP nor the Secretary of Defence gave prior notice of the attack.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Bernadine Jayasinghe. In local news, following are the views expressed by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa when he met with the officials of the Presidential Task Force to eradicate COVID-19.
You talk about these things when one patient is discovered. Otherwise, there is no active state from your end. I ask you to be active because daily I receive more than 1,000 messages asking me to bring people from overseas. Not only that, they ask me to release them from the 14-day quarantine period. I tell the commander of the army every day to tell the media that we cannot bring people to the country just like that because there is a limitation. They have to be directed for a 14-day quarantine period. They think that this can be easily done, but it is not. Was there a single day in the recent past where you did not talk about new cases? I told the commander of the army and the relevant authorities to be vigilant at this because there can be a chance that this can spread to the community. If we can bring the active cases to zero, then we only have to be vigilant at the cases coming from outside the country. That was my initial plan. I'm also interested to see the origin of this. We need to find out as to where the virus broke out from once again. We need to find as to how the situation occurred after 2 months. We need to find out whether it came from overseas or from within the country. That should be studied as well.
The government this afternoon requested the public not to be deceived by false propaganda circulating on social media, suggesting that a curfew will be imposed across the country beginning tomorrow. Issuing a special statement, the President's Media Unit stated that announcements made by President's Media Unit or the Government Information Department through electronic and print media should be taken as credible information. Meanwhile, the Presidential Media Unit stated that attention has been paid to the Gazette, the COVID prevention laws.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had held discussions with the Presidential Task Force to combat COVID-19 following the identification of COVID-19 infected patients from a number of areas in the Gampaha district. The President had instructed that the authorities take steps to identify the associates of the infected and prevent the spread of the disease further. He had also instructed that the number of PCR tests be increased so as to identify patients. The Presidential Media Unit stated that associates of the infected patients have been identified and they have been placed under self-quarantine. The President has further instructed that steps be taken to quarantine the associates at hotels in nearby areas. Experts have pointed out that the public slowly disregarding instructions given by the government to contain COVID-19 is the main reason for the infection to reappear over time.
Meanwhile, 2 complaints were lodged with the National Police Commission regarding this incident. One complaint was made by the Public Duty Centre, also known as the Mahajan Indukam Kendra.
The basis on which this complaint is filed is that when Riaz Badiuddin was arrested on the 15th of April, it was very clearly stated by Jalya Senaratne that this arrest was based on confirmed information. On the 2nd day of October, Jalya Senaratne again stated that no information suggesting the existence of a link could be found. We have a question as to whether the power centers of the government have any connection with this matter. Former Director of the Criminal Investigations Department, or DIG Nuwanweda Singha, has also been transferred by the President. I don't think transferring him alone would do justice to the people who died in the April 21st attacks. Our view is that officers with him would also be barred from their duties and be subjected to an investigation.
Meanwhile, the Sinhala organisation also made a formal complaint to the National Police Commission today.
As of yesterday, the Director of the Criminal Investigations Department, DIG Nuwanweda Singha, was to be transferred immediately. We have a strong suspicion as to why he was transferred suddenly. It is very clear that there is a big conspiracy inside this situation. We know that Rishad Badiuddin was nurtured by Basil Rajapaksa. This factor called Basil Rajapaksa is a germ. If he loves the country so much, he must renounce his US citizenship. Without renouncing it, he is using his political power to change the constitution to try to get those who have dual citizenship into parliament and into key positions in the government. Therefore, we have a strong suspicion that the character of Basil Rajapaksa is the cradle that is rocking Rishad Badruddin and his gang.
තමයි මේ රිචාඩ් බදුරුදීන් ඇතුළු මේ නඩය නලවන තොටිල්ල හදලා තියෙන්නේ කියන අපිට විශාල සැකයක් තියෙනවා.
A discussion on this was held with the leadership of the president. When you look at those who have contracted the virus and those who have been identified as close contacts, it is clear that these individuals are from Minuwangoda, Dewlapitiya and Veyangoda areas. That is why there is a strong imposition of curfew in those areas. There is no decision to have an island-wide curfew. We see that there is false news being spread on social media regarding the current situation, and we will take action against those who do so.
දැනට මේ දිස්ත්‍රික්ක තුනේ කොයි ආකාරයෙන්ද ඉදිරි නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක වන්නේ මේ උල්ලංඝනය කිරීම වාර්තා වෙනවද මොන ආකාරයෙන්ද සිද්ධ
දැනට මේ පොලිස් වසම් There have been 39 violators of curfew and have been arrested as well.
තුනෙන් අත්අඩංගුවටගෙන තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Professor G.L. Piris has commented on the possibility of conducting the examinations as scheduled.
අපි පැහැදිලි ස්ථාවරයක හිටියා.
We have arrived at a clear decision that we cannot undertake any risk concerning school children. Therefore, we decided to declare the second term holidays with effect from today instead of the 9th of this month. This decision will be applicable to all schools, preschools, Pirivana institutions and tuition classes. At the same time, the Kelaniya University, that is under the Higher Education Ministers, the Vikramarachya Ayurveda Institute and the Naivala Advanced Technological Institute will also remain closed. The Grade 5 scholarship exam and the advanced level examinations are scheduled to be held next week. We are trying to conduct the exam as scheduled. The Grade 5 scholarship exam is set to be held on the 11th of October and the advanced level examination on the 12th. The parents of the candidates sitting for this examination would be required to submit a form containing the health particulars of their children. It is important to design a plan to trace these children. Whatever we do has been based on deciding factors. That deciding factor is the health of these children. We will arrive at a decision on these exams very soon.
අද හෙට ඉතාමත් ඉක්මනින් අපි අවසාන තීරණයක් ගන්නවා මේ විභාග.
The COVID-19 cluster identified from the Minuwangoda apparel factory went past 80 with the discovery of more patients today. Earlier, the first two patients were identified as a woman from Minuwangoda and her daughter.
This cluster was discovered from the Gampaha district. It is one of the most populated districts in the country. When one person goes to the community, a large number of people interact with that person. Next thing is, it is difficult to trace the origin after that happens. Still, we are at an investigative level to find out as to how this COVID-19 patient came to the Minuwangoda apparel factory. Maybe we will be able to find it, maybe not. But with this particular case, the possibility of the disease spreading to the community is much larger. As of now, we don't know as to what extent the virus has spread in this area, as we are still at the beginning of identifying this particular cluster. Therefore, we ask the people living in the Gampaha district to restrict your mobility outside your houses. The Ministry of Health announced today that it is declaring an emergency after several COVID-19 patients have been reported from the Minuwangoda area. Acting Director General of Health Services, Consultant Dr. S. Sridharan, stated that this is to control the further transmission of the virus in society. A special meeting was held today by the Health Minister, Pavitra Vanyarachi, to discuss plans to mitigate the spread of the virus and steps to take to strengthen the treatment services in the hospitals. Here are some of the decisions made during the meeting. Utilization of Minuwangoda Hospital and Iranavila COVID Treatment Centre to provide medical services to the infected people in the Gampaha district. Utilization of Gampaha Hospital for admission and testing of patients suspected to be infected with COVID-19. To conduct PCR tests today on nearly 2,000 people, including factory workers and their close associates as well as school children. To conduct PCR tests on staff members of factories in the Gampaha district. Taking steps to deploy a special team of officials from the Ministry of Health to monitor and strengthen the COVID treatment services in the hospitals in the Gampaha district. Meanwhile, prison media spokesperson Chandaneka Nayaka said that visitors will be temporarily barred from visiting prisons until further notice. The prison commissioner further stated that this decision was taken due to the pandemic situation in the country.
Parliament is set to convene at 10 a.m. tomorrow, with the sitting set to revolve around the proposed 20th Amendment. Meanwhile, Speaker Mahindayappa Abhiwardhan expressed the following views on the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country.
The country is facing a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have not been able to identify the root cause for the new wave. Therefore, this is a time during which we have to exercise a high level of caution.
We must also support the government and the steps that it has taken over the matter. The difficulty in identifying the root cause of this matter tells us that there is something serious behind this. Therefore, the people must extend their fullest support to the government in order to bring this situation under control.
The consideration of petitions and intervening petitions on the draft bill of the 20th Amendment concluded at the Supreme Court today. The Supreme Court ruling would be handed over to the Speaker and the President in due course. The 5-member judge bench, headed by the Chief Justice that heard the petitions, ordered written submissions to be presented before 3 p.m. tomorrow. During today's session, Attorney General Dappala Dilivera told court that the draft bill does not contain provisions that are in violation of the Constitution or the people's sovereignty. He argued that it would be sufficient to pass the amendment with a two-thirds majority in Parliament. Accordingly, the state prosecutor requested the judge bench to issue an order determining that a public referendum is not required over this matter. He said that the people's right to exercise their franchise has been protected by the 20th Amendment as it balances the powers of the executive, legislature and the judiciary. The Attorney General told court that the President, who was elected by the people and the Parliament, will only act according to the sovereignty of the people. He added that a suitable Parliament is required to pass bills at the discretion of the President in order to develop the country. Meanwhile, the Attorney General informed court that the provisions pertaining to dual citizenship have been inserted in the amendment to allow citizens who had been distanced from the country to serve their motherland. He noted that electing such an individual as a parliamentarian or a president will only take place based on the sovereignty of the people. In a letter to the President, parliamentarian Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had pointed out that the government's policy titled Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor does not indicate that the laws introduced under the 19th Amendment will be abolished. The parliamentarian had expressed these remarks in a letter sent to the President conveying his stance on the 20th Amendment. Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had pointed out that the government could be degraded and that the hopes of party supporters may deteriorate due to the amendment that has been put forward by stirring up controversy in the country. He insisted that exempting state institutions from a state audit and removing them from the purview of the Parliament while vesting the legislature with exclusive powers on state finance goes against the people's sovereignty as established in sections 3 and 4 of the Constitution. Rajapaksa stressed that there are justifiable grounds behind the argument stating that a referendum is required to pass the amendment. He stated that there is a serious issue on whether parliamentarians who respect the people's sovereignty can vote in favor of the 20th Amendment while being true to their conscience. The parliamentarian said this would also violate the promise made by parliamentarians to abide by the Constitution and to protect it. Rajapaksa said that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa knows that he would not have been able to become president or a presidential candidate if the 19th Amendment had not been passed.
That is a good thing. It is good for various political parties in the government to convey their stance. It is healthy for democracy and an active democratic society. The government is built upon an alliance. The main party in that alliance is the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. There are several phases about this issue in concern. The Supreme Court has to issue its ruling before the 12th of October. The 20th Amendment can be presented to Parliament only after this for the second reading. Once the second reading is passed with a two-thirds majority, it would reach the committee stage. The Attorney General has already informed the Supreme Court stating that the government would make certain revisions to the amendment during the third phase. He has stated that publicly. The government is committed to making those amendments during committee stages. Before we formed the government, we told the people that a collective decision has been made to abolish the 19th Amendment. Extensive discussions were held in this regard between parliamentary groups and party leaders as well. In the case of Vimal Weerawansa's letter, we feel it would have been better for it to have been put forward during the party leaders' meeting instead of releasing it to the media. These are matters that must be resolved through internal discussions and not those which should be released to the media. The people granted us a mandate to completely abolish the 19th Amendment and to restore the situation that existed before that. If a referendum is required, we will not intervene into that. We will retain those provisions and abolish all other provisions in the 19th Amendment.
We cannot agree on certain provisions in the 20th Amendment. I am totally against introducing constitutional amendments by targeting certain individuals. I think that there was an unnecessary hurry in bringing forward the 20th Amendment. It has not even been 9 months. I am wondering as to why they need power more than what exists. The president's brother is the prime minister. Why do they need more power than this? Who is the opposing force? Political party must not try to use this for their benefit. During the previous administration, the country was made the scapegoat to please the international community. They didn't do anything to the people of this country, and they had to face the consequences of it. We cannot keep governments and toppling them. We must develop the country. Therefore, we need a proper team for this. I am not happy with the existing team.
Venerable Alle Gunavansha Thero
The government did not commit a mistake on its financial policy due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The country's economic growth had slid to a negative range during the first 3 quarters of this year. However, it is during this period that the government has obtained the highest amount of loans to the tune of 1 trillion rupees. If this money is not being used for the development of the people, then for what is it being used? We saw 2 statements that had been made recently. One is the latest ratings of the Moody's rating agency and the statement of Modi, the Indian Prime Minister. The government raised stiff objection against the recent publication by Moody's but remains silent over Modi. The ratings agency had said that a massive crisis is looming due to financial mismanagement and that issues would arise pertaining to foreign loans. Therefore, this would ultimately affect the ordinary people of this country. The parliament and the president have the power to do whatever they want. The people are of the view that the government is diverting the country's attention from the people's problems toward COVID-19.
According to the ratings, the respective index is not falling only because of delays in loan repayments, nor because of non-payment of loans. The main reason for this is the uncertainty in the future of the economy of Sri Lanka and the financial discipline of the country. On one hand, the audits have been abolished and they have been tossed aside. We know that a large amount of money is allocated from the budget for the president, the prime minister and the institutions that fall under their purview. Do we need to be surprised that these thieves are being bred when these large sums of money are exempted from audits? There is a serious issue regarding financial discipline. There comes a question of responsibility and accountability in finances. Then is it a surprise that there is a downgrade in ratings from these agencies? If thieves are going to make a constitution, can you blame an average person for being suspicious?
The release of Rishad Badiuddin's brother, who was arrested in connection with the April 21st attack, and his later participation in a ceremony with Minister Chamal Rajapaksa has caused controversy in the political arena.
I believe it would have been better if the police had not touched Rishad Badiuddin. It is the government that is being discredited in this matter. People are pointing fingers at the government as if it was a deal which led to Rishad Badiuddin receiving special treatment. I do not understand why the police are behaving in such a manner. It would have been wonderful if they had decided to put these matters before court and say that there is either some or no evidence. Do the police act the same way with ordinary people? I understand this as a situation where the police try to score points and embarrass the government. I strongly condemn this process.
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී විශේෂයෙන් කියන්න ඕනේ අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාවත් ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාවත් ඒ ඇරෙන්න අප
We must note that the President, Prime Minister, our party founder Basil Rajapaksa, Chamal Rajapaksa or any other Rajapaksa have not held any form of discussion pertaining to the release of Rishad Badiuddin's brother or allowing parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin to join the government as well. We wish to clearly state that we have no intention to do that. Some unscrupulous elements are trying to create a misconception among the people and to mislead them. However, we wish to clearly stress that the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna or its founder Basil Rajapaksa is not involved in such matters.
පෙරමුණවත් විශේෂයෙන් එහි නිර්මාතෘ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහතාවත් මෙම කිසිම දෙයකට සම්බන්ධ නැති බව ඉතා පැහැදිලිව ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටින්න ඕනේ පක්ෂ වෙනුවෙන්.
දැන් ජනාධිපතිවරණේ මහමැතිවරණේ
They have completely overturned the image that they portrayed during the parliamentary and presidential elections and are saying that there is no evidence to substantiate the allegations. They have learned that there is insufficient evidence only after both these elections. I wish to clearly state that the individuals who came up with these lies to mislead the people must be revealed. Please reveal that. Why are they deceiving the people? What has happened? 2 months after the election, they are saying that there is insufficient evidence. Look at the manner in which they have deceived the public.
නෑ සාක්ෂි නෑ. බලන්න මිත්‍රවරුනි අපේ රටේ ජනතාව මංමුලා කරපු ආකාරය, රවට්ටපු ආකාරය.
The introduction of the Lanka QR code, which directs the country's financial transaction sector towards digital methods, took place today. A ceremony in this regard was held at the central bank premises today. The event was attended by ministers, central bank officials, finance ministry officials, as well as officials from a number of public and private sector institutions related to the financial sector.
The new technology introduced today will enable the public to make payments through a mobile phone application, bypassing the need for coins and notes. It makes processes efficient, secure and of low cost.
The main goal of this program is to reduce money printing, financial inclusiveness, to bring those in the informal sector to the formal sector, and finally to spread this program around the country.
Our aim is to reduce the physical use of money among the public and increase digital transactions. The use of innovative technologies will enable us as a country to meet the needs of local and foreign markets. I am confident that it will have many other benefits, such as improving the efficiency of the public and private sectors and ensuring financial security. We expect this to be a great boost to the growth of the financial sector and thereby create economic growth.
We want to try to further develop our payment and settlement methods. Today we see huge sums of money coming in from overseas via alternative methods like the. So if it's possible to make financial transactions easier and much more secure through such methods, I think Sri Lankan workers in many countries could use these methods to remit money into this country. I think PayPal is something that has been talked about for a very long time. I request the central bank to continue the work on making PayPal available.
The way I see it, financial literacy is at a low in this country. In a country of such a nature, there is an illegitimate financial market and a lot of illegal financial flows. There is a black economy in the country of a size that I can't imagine. These transactions within this black economy are not included in the formal financial statistics. We believe that if both the public and private sectors in the formal money market embrace the methodology introduced by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, it will play a vital part in our future development and our success.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena has said that he had instructed the arrest of April 21st attacks mastermind Zaharan Hashim at the beginning of 2019. In a testimony at the Presidential Commission probing the bombings, the former president cited the negligence of duties by the relevant officials as the main cause of the attacks.
In a testimony, former President Maithripala Sirisena said that this is the first instance during which a former president had given evidence before a commission that had been appointed by him. He pointed out that this had been possible due to the 19th Amendment and that he is contented over this move. The former president told the commission that he had prepared a defense policy with the assistance of the relevant officials, including the commanders of the tri-forces under his administration. He noted that a National Reconciliation Ministry had been established through the 19th Amendment and that he was able to maintain national security by bringing it under his purview. However, the witness said that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet had only supported him during the first 6 months of his tenure as President. He recalled that there were several obstacles in governing the country as a result of not receiving the fullest support of the Cabinet and the Prime Minister. The former president told investigators that it was due to this reason that a commission had been appointed to probe the central bank bond scam as well. He added that the unwarranted intervention of non-governmental organizations had stirred up problems in the country and had paved the way for communal rifts as well. Meanwhile, the former president told the commission that he was not informed about the warnings of an attack by the former police chief who had accompanied him to the airport on the 16th of April last year, or when the defense secretary and the former police chief had visited him at his official residence on the 14th of April for the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. The witness admitted that he had been shocked over the tragedy that had taken place under his administration. He insisted that the attacks could have been prevented if he was informed about the warnings at least through a telephone call or by any other means as well. On a separate note, the former president charged that the National Security Council had not been able to arrive at a decision on banning the niqab garment due to stiff opposition raised by the then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. As a result of the change that I made, I was able to appear before the commission as a former president. Otherwise, there was no law in this country that allowed a former president to appear before a court or commission. The April 21st attacks was an incident that caused immense grief to me in my lifetime. I will extend my fullest support to identify the perpetrators of these attacks. Therefore, I was very much willing to give evidence before the commission.
State Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara made a request from party supporters during a meeting in Kurunegala yesterday.
A public meeting had been organised under the patronage of State Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara to thank his supporters in the Dodam Gaslanda area in Kurunegala.
Dayasiri Jayasekara ඇමතුමනි ශ්‍රී ලංකා රාජපක්ෂ මහලේකම්තුමනි මේ ගම් පියසර වැඩක් කරන්න බැරි වුණොත් නැවතනම් මේ ගමට ඇවිල්ලා මෙවැනි රැස්වීමක් කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න එපා. මේ රැඳිලා ඉන්නේ මේ ආනන්ද മന്ത്രിතුමාට හිතවත්ම වචනේ මගහරින්න බැරි පුද්ගලයෙ කොටසක් තව මේ ඉන්නේ මෙතන. මේ ඉන්න ටිකවත් රැක ගන්න නම් ගරු ඇමතුමනි ඔබතුමායි මං දෙපා නැමද ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා මේ ගමට මේ දේ කරේ දයාසිරි ජයසේකර ඇමතුමා කියන එක අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට වැඩක් කරලා අපිට දීලා ඔබතුමා තව අවුරුදු 5කින් 6කින් හෝ 10කින් මේ ගමට ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න කිව්වොත් අපි ඔබතුමාට මනාප එකන්නේ මේ පහක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් පහම දෙනවා. තමුන්නාස දන්නවා මේ මැතිවරණයෙන් පස්සේ.
You know that I have received a state ministerial portfolio after the parliamentary elections. I have been given new subjects that include batik, handloom fabrics and local apparel products. Therefore, there are certain things that I can do and cannot do due to this situation. I am not a person who wishes to tell you lies. I have paid attention to your problems whenever possible. Therefore, I wish to request you to avoid placing Dayasiri Jayasekara in a similar standard to that of other politicians.
තමුන්නාසලගේ ඉල්ලීම් වලට අහුම්කම් දීලා මම වැඩ කළා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අනෙක් දේශපාලනඥයන් ගන්න දයසිරි ජයසේකරව දාන්න එපයි කියලා කරුණාකරලා මම ඉල්ලන්න කැමතියි.
The party supporters of the state minister requested him to sing a song as well.
තරදිනේ දාපුවට මම කිව්වා සින්දුවක් කියන දේ එතෙන්ද දෙන්නේ නැද්ද? නේද?
Based on the manner in which I was warned, I thought that I would not be able to set foot in this area regardless of whether I sing a song or not. I don't like people to act in an arrogant manner when we come to thank the people. We are warned that we would not be allowed to set foot in the area in the next 5 years when we come to thank people. This discourages us from singing songs. It has a negative mental effect.
ලංගින් හිටියේ නැති ටික කාලෙක ඔයා හුඟක් වෙනස් වෙලා අපේ තීන වලින් ඔය
4 suspects have been arrested in Munragala with a Buddha statue which was to be sold for 6 billion rupees. The suspects are aged 20, 26, 30, 40 and are residents of Anuradhapura, Rambavar and Peradene areas.
The police stated that the Buddha statue was made of sapphires and was being prepared for sale. However, its exact value has not yet been revealed. The suspects were arrested through an undercover operation on intel received by the Munragala Divisional Corruption Investigation Unit. Police said the suspects arrested are 2 army officers, a monk and a computer software engineer.
The Colombo Stock Exchange suffered heavy losses today with the all-share price index losing more than 7%.
The all-share price index declined by 462.99 basis points to 5,587.18, down by 7.65%, while the S&P SL20 dropped by 165.92 basis points to 2,288.51, 6.76% lower compared to the previous close. Following the steep decline in the S&P SL20, the market was halted twice during the morning session today.
Again, the market lasted only for around another 8 minutes of trading with the heavy selling pressure that was there in the market. The market quickly triggered the 7.5% decline mark in the mainly the S&P SL20, again triggering the second trading halt. And then the market again was halted for around 30 minutes of trading.
Meanwhile, the central bank is due to issue treasury bills worth 40 billion rupees via an auction on the 7th of October at yield rates of 4.57%, 4.7% and 4.99%. Sri Lanka's remaining foreign currency denominated debt due for repayment during the remainder of the year now falls below $500 million as the central bank last week settled its $1 billion sovereign bond, which was due on October 4th, including the coupon payments due at the time of settlement. Following the ISB repayment, money market liquidity fell by 47.63 billion rupees by the end of last week, marking one of the largest single-day declines.
According to US President Donald Trump's medical team, the president's condition is improving as he is being treated for COVID-19 at a military hospital. The team also provided more details of the lung illness that wrap up primetime news. I'm Bernadine Chai Singha and the interpreter for tonight, Brian. Good night. Take care.